Okay, so here we have uh, a reading of. Do you have a title for this fan fiction?
No,
There's no title.
there is a
It's
title, but it's a
basically
song name.
a fan fiction of Virag's, uh, where she details her encounters with a special member of One Direction, Zayn Malik. And in the story, her name is it Lila?
Lily.
Lily. Lily, okay. Here we go. And we're halfway through the story, just to the important bit, so it may sound like we're halfway through the story. I was still desperately grabbing Zayn's hand, and there was almost a sense of tension around Liam when we got down. The guy shrugged and tried to make him laugh, but he was unconsolably desperate or angry. Daphne's gaze indicated that she was going to figure out something. So everyone retreated to bathe. I took the opportunity and exploded into his sink at lightning speed before Zany then I don't know what that means. Then jumped into, into the shower. Satisfied, I allowed myself a hot water, which fell well after a stressful day. But a few minutes later, a cool draft slammed into my back. I heard the door open behind me, but I didn't dare turn around. With my right arm, I was seeing the top of the cab after my towel, but it fell off and I should have gotten out to reach it. So I stood helpless in one place while the water was bubbling at a calm pace. I took strength from myself and looked back over my shoulder at who it might be. I didn't have to be disappointed. Zayn leaned against the door, and when his gaze met mine, a satisfied smile ran down my face. Don't you knock? I joked, but I was really just trying to ease my situation without success. I'm not used to my own bath, especially not after my girlfriend, he stressed, then stepped closer and I could feel his gaze running through me. Would you mind going out? I looked back again. At this, a sweet puppy began to glare at me and finally added a macho smile to his plea. I sighed. Turn around, Malik, I ordered, then hurriedly picked up the towel from the floor and looped my wet body around it. You can already watch. He immediately walked around. He immediately walked over to me, then hugged me tightly. He hugged tightly to me with no interest in leaving water stains on his t-shirt everywhere. When it was all wet, Zane pulled it off and threw it next to him. His hand wandered gently to his waist, then squeezed it and gently lifted it to the sink counter on which he sat. He began to kiss my neck in slow movements as he rested his fingers on my thighs. I couldn't stop myself from looking at his upper body, on which the muscles tensed with each movement. His hand reached for the knot of the towel. I trembled for a moment, but I didn't object. I calmly let the white garment loosen from my upper body and fall on my thighs. Zane let me tie a bunch of towels around my waist and then rolled me out onto my bed. Zane was above me again. You keep skipping from her first person to third person, and I have to change it for the
I
recording.
didn't in Hungarian.
Okay. Scanning both arms, all this time, but this time I felt no fear. Much more a desire to run around my body. He almost burned his gaze, then pretty slowly began to push kisses from my neck to my belly. I was then, however, that I realized it was then, however, when I realized I was behaving degenerate again. Ju- just letting me drift with the tide and doing nothing. I grew gently above her and
Him.
him, sorry, and hitting and sitting on his groin rather ran, ran my fingers along his bulging muscles, to which he moaned softly. My hand started in the direction of the slice. Don't know what that word is. I pulled off the zipper and I also unfolded the button. I got up a little so I could take off my pants, then spread out the towel covering the more important places so far. I slid over his thigh at it as it wouldn't have been nice for him to sit there
I
anymore.
didn't
And after after I sat over, you didn't know what sex was. And after I sat over, I slid my fingertips over his inner leg. He hissed as soon as I reached his upper thigh, but I enjoyed the situation. That now is the that now is the time he is helpless. Don't torture me, he moaned, but I didn't but I didn't care. What you say? I don't understand. I shook my locks. Lilian, please, I sighed. Then I think you mean he sighed. Then began to pull down his boxer. I tried to make subtle and slow, sort of tortuous moves, but it wasn't my best. Zayn really understood that, and as soon as his underpants were taken off, he proved it. Soon, soon after, my moan shook the room. Mr. Malik tortured me with reality, but it was fantastic with him. I couldn't even concentrate on seeing someone hear us. I became completely one with him. Asterisk. The next morning. It was an experience to wake up in Zane's arms. I rested my head on his chest and felt the smell permeate my lungs. I woke up reluctantly as I pressed a kiss to his cheek and pulled out a couple of clothes from my bag on into the bathroom. I tucked on a shirt. I put on a shirt and a pair of shorts, then quickly applied a little primer to my face. That's all that you've copy pasted for me.
I know.
I guess that's that's probably the best bit, I imagine.